România primește foarte mulți bani de la Uniunea Europeană și tot ce are de făcut este să-i folosească pentru investiții. Obiceiul binecunoscut de a ne plânge că nu avem cu ce și că de aceea nu facem mare lucru ar trebui anulat. Fondurile puse în prezent la dispoziția noastră sunt uriașe. Tot ce avem de făcut este să venim cu proiecte care să îmbunătățească și să facă țara să funcționeze la nivelul statelor din Occident. Vicepreședintele Comisiei Europene, Frans Timmermans, ne reamintește cât de mulți bani sunt în dreptul numelui României și ne îndeamnă să-i folosim pentru investiții, pentru că doar așa putem să ne atingem adevăratul potențial. Sunt Cristina Cileacu, începe Pașaport diplomatic. Frans Timmermans, Vice President of the European Commission, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pragul pentru abuz în serviciu, adică până la ce sumă maximă de bani poți fura dacă ești într-o funcție publică fără să fii pedepsit. Ideea ca acest prag să fie până în suma de 50.000 de euro urma să facă parte din noul cod de procedură penală și trecuse deja de vot în Senat, când am filmat interviul cu vicepreședintele Comisiei Europene. Propunerea de lege ajunsese în Camera Deputaților, dar între timp politicienii din România au înțeles că furtul este furt și au renunțat la amendamentele care încurajau practic folosirea banilor publici în scopuri personale.
Vice President Timmermans, you are in Bucharest at the moment when our politician voted in the Senate to decriminalize the abuse of service under 50k euros. You were quite involved yourself when you were responsible by the rule of law at the level of European Union, when Liviu Dragnea, former PSD leader, wanted to vote the famous Ordonance 13. Now is Mr. Ciolacu, another leader of the Socialist Party, doing the same. What's your message from one socialist to another for Mr. Ciolacu?
Well, very clearly, it's absolutely not the same. Let's be very clear about that. Marcel Ciolacu and the party are very much committed to the rule of law. They have made that clear to me many times, not just in words. I can see what is happening in the government. And this specific issue is not in the final stages of solution. So I would just myself wait until I see what comes out of it at the end and retain my judgment until then. But it is clear that we are not operating under the same way as at the time. This is clearly now a party committed to European values, committed to the rule of law, and let's see what comes out of it, and then we can have a final judgment.
In your experience, because you are a very experienced politician, is there such a ceiling of decriminating the abuse of office in any country of Europe?
I think the abuse of office is abuse of office, and as such is not permissible. And that is, I think, a European norm that everybody can agree on.
So how come what is voting now in Romania is not the same?
Let's wait what comes out of this at the end of the day, and then we can pass a judgment whether this is in line with European norms, yes or no. What I heard, what I was told this morning in conversations gives me the confidence that the outcome would not be in violation of European norms, but let's wait and see.
Intrarea României în spațiul Schengen a fost mult timp condiționată prin mecanismul de cooperare și verificare MCV. Asta însemna că autoritățile erau constant verificate dacă și-au făcut temere privind reforma sistemului judiciar, care trebuie să fie independent, și combaterea corupției. Anul trecut, Comisia Europeană a renunțat la acest instrument, considerând că România a făcut reformă și în justiție și în combaterea corupției. Practic, țara noastră a intrat sub incidența unui alt mecanism, folosit în cazul tuturor membrilor Uniunii Europene, raportul anual privind statul de drept, prin care blocul comunitar se asigură că sunt respectate constant regulile democrației. Problema intrării în Schengen a României nu mai este acum legată de corupție, ci, după estimarea Austriei, de migrație ilegală care ar trece și pe la noi spre vestul Europei. Totuși, cum ar vedea Comisia Europeană un vot prin care România ar fi permis un prag pentru abuzul în serviciu?
And such a vote, if will be finalized, will matter at the level of European Union if we discuss about Schengen, Romania in Schengen?
Oh, let's not mix issues. I think Romania should have been in Schengen a long time ago. I've been an advocate of that over many, many years. I think Romania is being held accountable for something Romania has very little to no role in, which is the issue of the migrants coming into some countries. So I would not mix the issues, and I will remain a campaigner to make sure that Romania gets allowed into Schengen as quickly as possible.
Pactul Verde European este planul Uniunii Europene pentru combaterea schimbărilor climatice. Toate domeniile care au legătură cu economia blocului comunitar intră sub incidența acestui proiect ambițios de trecere la metode noi și eficiente de folosire a resurselor, de eliminarea risipei de orice fel și, în modul general, de acceptare a faptului că, vrem sau nu, lumea este într-o continuă transformare. Agricultura europeană, care să respecte mediul înconjurător, are în continuare sarcina să ne hrănească, dar după o serie de reguli noi. Fermierii care cresc animale sunt printre cei mai revoltați. Directiva Uniunii Europene privind reducerea emisiilor de azot înseamnă pentru fermele mari că trebuie să își reducă efectivele de animale, iar pentru multe ferme mici presupune chiar închiderea lor. Bătălia dintre tipurile vechi de producție și inovație este în plină derulare. Cert este că la final trebuie să câștigăm toți, pentru că avem nevoie de mâncare curată în cantități suficiente, obținută fără să ne distrugem planeta.
You are now responsible, of course, for the Green Deal of Europe, and one important issue in the Green Deal is the agriculture. It will receive EU money only if everyone implements the environmental rules. Reducing of nitrogen emission is an issue for Dutch farmers, for Romanian farmers as well, for everyone that has animal farms. What will you tell them, because there is a lot of
yes, well,
worries.
first of all, there is also a lot of money in support of this transition. Romania has submitted its plans for the reform of the agricultural sector, for eco schemes. There is a lot of European money to support that. You know, the total envelope of the common agricultural policy is close to 390 billion euros in this financial period. So there is a lot of money for that. The implementation of the agreement with Romania on agricultural reform will help farmers. We have to make sure that we support especially those farmers who are smallholders and have already sustainable practices. We need to make sure that in the whole value chain it becomes more interesting to buy sustainable products. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is that nature and farming are allies, they're not opposed. You cannot farm on dead soil. Nothing grows on dead soil. You cannot farm if the pollinators are dead, if there are no more bees. And this is the bee capital of the world I'm talking to, Romania. So we have to make sure that farming can happen in healthy conditions. We have to reduce the use of pesticides. We have to reduce the use of fertilizers. We have to move to more sustainable agricultural practices, but farmers need to get support for doing that, and we have those means in the common agricultural policy. But what I think will paralyze things, if there is a false contradiction between nature protection and farming.
În 2019, România avea cei mai mulți angajați în agricultură dintre toate țările membre ale Uniunii Europene. Estimările oficiale arată că la noi în țară sunt cultivate puțin peste 12 milioane de hectare de teren agricol, în vreme ce Polonia ajunge la aproape 15 milioane, iar Franța face agricultură pe 28 de milioane de hectare. Dar nu doar suprafețele cultivate sunt importante, ci și metodele de lucru, pentru că producția, în cazul nostru, este în mare parte ineficientă. Potențialul agricol al României este încă limitat de lipsa de investiții masive în acest domeniu, iar Uniunea Europeană are mulți bani pregătiți pentru noi în acest sens, dar la rândul nostru trebuie să înțelegem că banii vin doar dacă se fac proiecte bine gândite, care să îmbunătățească felul în care se face agricultură. În momentul în care acest pas va fi făcut, subvențiile pe care Uniunea Europeană le plătește fermierilor români vor putea fi comparabile cu cele din alte state ale blocului comunitar.
Romania received lower subsidies. It's another issue that Romanian farmers are discontent, comparing with the rest of EU countries, including the countries from the Eastern and Central Europe. Why is that? Is that the fact that Romanian politicians didn't negotiate well at the level of the European Commission?
I think the support Romania gets is linked to where it is in terms of its agricultural development. I think the contribution it gets is in relationship to the nature also of agriculture in Romania, and at the same time I know there's still a huge potential that remains unused in terms of reform, in terms of investment, and let's use the coming years to make that work better. And this is also what I said to the ministers this morning. We have an urgent need to invest in Romania. The funds are there. If you look at the structural funds, the agricultural funds, the Next Generation EU funds, the Innovation Fund, the recovery money, if you combine all of that, we're talking about full percentages of Romanian GDP that could be invested. And we should make sure that we do not slow down, that we speed up these investments. And the Commission is very much focused on doing that. We also just had a mission from the officials of the Commission to go through the requirements. I hope that we can soon agree that the third tranche of the payments will be available. So let's speed up the investment, and then also agriculture will be taken to a higher level.
But what is the motive of this lack of investment from your view? Because you're perfectly right. We receive a lot of money from European Union. How come we don't spend them?
Well, there's been in the past, as you know, there's been a period of political turmoil.
It's always political turmoil.
Well, now the government is performing and is negotiating with us and is implementing plans. That was not always the case, and especially in the period when we had to formulate the recovery plan, it was very difficult at the time, given the political situation, to get it done. But it's there now, and these are good plans, and now we need to implement them. So I don't think at this stage there is any inhibition, any limit to moving fast forward. But once again, what we need is political clarity. What we need is a government that can govern. And that's the case today. And I hope we can build on that to speed up the investments.
Uniunea Europeană ne forțează să mâncăm gândaci. Acest enunț fals a fost popularizat sub diferite forme, pe mai multe canale, de cei care vor România în sfere de influență autocrată. Populiștii au deturnat sensul unei decizii europene de a accepta anumite insecte drept alimente și au blamat blocul comunitar că impune reguli ireale. Mesajul interpretat cu reavoință a ajuns să circule și la nivelul autorităților în domeniu și, în loc de o informare corectă, a rezultat o bășcălie pur românească. Din păcate, concluzia este că mare parte a publicului a fost dezinformat și s-a introdus pe agenda publică un subiect care în realitate nu există.
To give you an example that actually was used by our current Minister of Agriculture regarding the decision of European Union to accept some insects as food, the comments made around here were that, and I kind of quote, EU is forcing us to eat bugs instead of allowing us to eat farm animals. How would you explain, including to the current Minister of Agriculture, how the agriculture of future must look in a planet where population is increasing and we must produce without polluting?
Well, first of all, the Commission is not telling anyone what to eat. People make their own choices. But the Commission is of the opinion that people should be well informed when they make their choices. So that's our only goal, to inform people that their choices have consequences. You know, so the more meat you eat, the bigger your carbon footprint is. The less meat you eat, the smaller your carbon footprint is. Does that mean that the Commission is telling you to eat less meat? No, that's entirely up to you. But, you know, like with any human being, your actions have consequences. And if you don't know what the consequences are, you will not change your behavior. If you know what the consequences are, you could change your behavior, but nobody's telling you what you should or should not do, just informing you. Secondly, you know, agriculture is moving in many different directions, and proteins will be coming from many different sources. And in some countries, they think protein coming from insects could be part of a way of producing food. Nobody's telling anyone to eat bugs instead of meat. Nobody's doing that. So I think you don't help the situation by painting a caricature of reality. But in this day and age, it's very easy to paint caricatures. So it's sort of the first trick, as I say as an experienced politician, the first trick in the politician's handbook is to paint a caricature and then to fight the caricature. Let's look at what the situation really is, and the situation is there is going to be a shift in agriculture production globally. This is not just a European phenomenon. We will have to feed the world without killing the planet, and to do that we will have to change some of our practices. And don't forget, in Europe, we waste 20% of our food. 20% is wasted. I mean, that if we only that would change, we would change many other things as well. So let's concentrate on things that really matter. Let's not create caricatures. Let's work together to create a sustainable food chain, a sustainable agricultural production with decent incomes for our farmers. And decent incomes for our farmers means not just through the production of food, also through nature preservation, also through stocking CO2, etc.
A înțeles deja toată lumea că Rusia va transforma războiul pe care l-a început în Ucraina într-unul de uzură. Ideile imperiale ale lui Putin afectează deja relațiile Federației Ruse cu restul lumii și alianțele pe care rușii le fac cu alte autocrații vin la pachet cu un cost ridicat. Pe termen lung, Rusia își scoate la mezat resursele și le vinde la prețuri mici ca să poată supraviețui. Din toată această situație nu câștigă nimeni de fapt, pentru că țările care profită acum de oferta Rusiei vor ajunge în punctul în care vor începe să pună presiune și de aici pot rezulta noi probleme.
The final question is about Russia, because of course it's the main threat for the civilized world, for the democracies. European Union reacted very well and constant by delivering sanction packages. I'm thinking that more will come, but in the meantime Russia is strengthening its partnership with its traditional allies. Will European Union be able, together with its allies, of course, to shift this trend?
Well, frankly, Putin has very few friends on the planet. And I lived in Russia, I worked in Russia. The biggest tragedy is that this man has cut off his people from where they belong, because they are Europeans. But he is creating another iron curtain between Russia and us. Nobody profits from that, especially not the Russian people. But he needs to be stopped. He needs to understand that we no longer live in a period where countries can be empires on the European continent. His aspiration is empirical. He wants to create an empire. He wants to negate the right of the Ukrainian nation to exist. That's why he's abducting children. That's why he is stealing books from Ukrainian libraries. He says there is no such thing as Ukraine. Do you understand what the implications of that ideology are for us Europeans? We cannot tolerate that. We, as Europeans, are nations with our identity and with our culture, and we will not be told by Putin that we don't exist, that we don't have the right to exist, and that we should be under Russian control. So we are fighting for our freedom, for our values. That's what's happening in Ukraine. And yes, other parts of the world don't want to express that they are on our side. That doesn't mean that they are on his side. Look at Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow. I saw this as almost a humiliation. He was groveling Putin, he was begging, and he didn't get anything out of it. So he is isolated. He's isolated and he deserves to be isolated. But the Russian people would deserve better. And I hope they someday understand that their destiny should be in Europe, not to be isolated, but for the foreseeable future, we will have a huge problem with Russia because of this man's dreams of recreating an empire.
Frans Timmermans, Vice President of the European Commission, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe contul nostru de Twitter. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și reluare sâmbătă după miezul nopții. La revedere!